Battle Line podcast. Before we get into everything, I actually want to go off script a little bit because now that I've been taking Ned's Brain Blend for a month now, I actually am really feeling the effects of it, I have to say. Just to get into my background a little bit, I was diagnosed with ADD in middle school, actually, and I was put on Adderall, I was put on Metadate. The thing for me is that I naturally had really low weight. So I wasn't definitely not looking to lose weight. And you end up losing weight taking that type of stuff. So I got off of it. I ended up getting into the nootropic type of stuff. I ended up getting into like ginkgo biloba leaf, which I always thought was effective. And as someone who's like always followed the field of supplements, I realized a lot of brands have now been doing the mushroom extract stuff. And I'm talking about mushroom extract, not magic mushrooms or anything like that. And I don't think any of that really did much for me. So I was really excited when Ned put out the Brain Blend because I was thinking, man, this will probably be something different. And I always like their supplements since we've used them and since they've been a sponsor. And this does use ginkgo biloba leaf, which has always been effective with me, as well as the lion's mane and the CBD hemp oil in there as well. So it's really been a 2-in-1 supplement because it's great for all the effects of CBD in terms of joint recovery and muscle relief and all that, and also just sleep, post-traumatic stress for people who are suffering from that. But at the same time, this is a supplement for your mind. So I see it as just a great 2-in-1 supplement. It's something I take every night, and it's something I'm going to continue to take.
And full disclosure, guys, I haven't taken the brain blend yet. I still just stick with the CBD oil, and then also the muscle relief balm, the pain relief balm, which is awesome. So if Ian says it's working, Ian doesn't lie, guys. He tell you this, but he doesn't. At least I haven't caught him in any lies yet. If he does, we'll point it out on the show. And if he says it's working for him, it's working for him. The stuff that I take definitely works for me. Helps out with the inflammation. Their pain relief balm helps out with the soreness, especially the soreness I'm getting in my quad now that I'm having to stretch it back out after rupturing it about 5 weeks ago. So, guys, Ned is tremendous. Top-notch products, top-notch group, top-notch head shed up there, headquarters element that runs their show up in Colorado, and the product speaks for itself. So we'd be idiots to tell you to not take Ned. So take Ned, and your life's going to improve. Definitely going to improve leaps and bounds, just like mine and Ian has.
Absolutely. And yeah, I do love that pain relief balm. The menthol, man, when you put it on, wait for like a minute for it to kick in, and that stuff is powerful. And also that container is going to last you a while. So I love that stuff. Yeah, these products are science-backed, nature-based solutions that offer an alternative to prescription and over-the-counter drugs. Ned CBD is cold extracted from the world's purest USDA-certified organic hemp in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. Full transparency, Ned shares third-party lab reports, who farms their products, and their extraction process all right there on their site. Ned's CBD products have over 2,000 5-star reviews, so become the best version of yourself and get 15% off Ned products with code BATTLELINE. Go to helloned.com/BattleLine or enter code BATTLELINE at checkout. That's HELLONED.com/BattleLine. Thank you, Ned, for sponsoring the show and offering our listeners a natural remedy for some of life's most common health issues.
From Omaha, Nebraska to New York City, from planet Earth to extraterrestrial life in space, a podcast with no equal, engaged in unconventional warfare through your speakers and headphones. This is a show about embracing the suck, conquering your demons, and finding God in the face of adversity. Chris Tonto Peranto.
Twitch is on. Motherfucker, I'm gonna shoot you in the face.
Ian Scotto.
You know, Ian and I have been dating for a long time.
You are now tuned into the Battle Line Podcast.
podcast. And we have a few things I wanted to cover here before we get to Ed Ford and Alan Cheeson, authors of Postcards Through Hell. Man, the past 24 hours has been interesting because it's actually been the most publicity, I believe, that this show has ever gotten. And for something completely unexpected. I mean, the main thing we cover is the special operations military world, the Second Amendment world, and that interview with Edsel Dope from Static X, and just Edsel Dope, I should say, executive producer of Static X, and from Dope, and his comments about Static X. It originally got picked up by Blabbermouth, and then the PRP out of Canada picked it up, and then Metal Injection picked it up, and We Are the Pit, and all these sites picked up on this one excerpt from the show, and it got a lot of traction. It's really cool to see, for something unexpected like that.
Well, it's cool to see that the tie-in between rock music and the military community, there's a huge tie-in there, and it's because that's what we listen to when we're downrange. That's what helps get us through times. And when we come back, I think rock music, especially that kind of rock music, which is where they still play their own instruments and tremendous, that talented musicians, they actually capture some of the feelings that we have when we come back. You see it with Madness and All That Remains. You see it with some of the stuff from Five Finger Death Punch. You see it with stuff through, well, I mean, look what Dope did. I mean, with the stuff that happened at Abu Ghraib, at
Guantanamo,
Guantanamo, and I think it's just a closeness, a brotherhood between veterans and rock music and musicians, and there's a healthy respect for musicians. Every musician we've had on, from Dave Silvera to Jimmy Allen to Edsel Dope, they Ted always have, and Ted Nugent. Oh, of course, Ted Nugent. The respect for veterans and those that serve is out of this world, and it makes me proud that's there. And it doesn't surprise me that we get more. And I'm thank you to all the rock people out there, all the publications out there, all the rock media out there. We get more exposure from the rock side of the house than we do from the firearm side of the house. And that doesn't surprise me. That's
why it was interesting to me, because like our interview with Dave Silvera, that got picked up by it was picked up by
Blabbermouth a lot. Yeah. We've got picked. Thank you guys. Thank you, Blabbermouth. Man, that's awesome.
Frank Bello. And I was saying that to you. It's interesting to me, because if I were to say what would make news that we've spoken about, to me, the Sarah Adams show. And I would have thought all these military websites would want to pick up on something like that, because for one, it would get clicks, but also that's like the biggest news story I think the show has ever broken.
I think a lot of it, and this is why I've stepped away from the mainstream, is they see how the mainstream media works. It's breaking news. It's who's going to get it first, but then the other ones die. It's just like with our story. I wanted to do everyone. I actually chose Anderson Cooper to be our first one to come out to say, hey, we're going to say about 13 hours with Anderson Cooper. I was voted down. We had to go through Brett Baer, which was still tremendous. But once one has it, the other one say, well, screw you guys. You chose them over us. We're not going to. So if we don't break it, and the media and the gun community looks to Fox News to see how they emulate things, they do. And they look to CNN. So I think once it's broken, and we broke it, which is our show. I mean, sorry, guys, it's our show. I know where I worked there. I was there. I think the rest of them are like, you know what? Screw it. We're not going to do it because we weren't able to break it. We're not going to get the exposure. And also, I think there's a lot of insecurity in the gun community. I don't think there is a lot of insecurity. If there is, these guys get after it in the rock community. In fact, they get after it by call each other out. Literally, we won't get into it, or there's fisticuffs at shows. But that's the old school way of getting it out. And so I admire the rock and roll community and the gun community. We can take a lot of points from them. There's a lot more security within people, within themselves. A lot more confidence within themselves in the rock and roll community, from what I've seen. Now, I could be completely wrong, but from what I've seen, than within our own community. There's the alpha male. When I say alpha male is a contradiction in terms, guys, I mean that. I really do feel there's a lot of insecurity that goes on in the TUI community, and it turns into competition instead of trying to help each other. And you don't see that in the rock community, at least when they come over and they cross over into the military side of the gun community. And thank you to the rock community for that. That you set the example. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's a win-win, because for us, when these sites post about something that we discussed, new people are going to see the show. People are going to go on Google, just on their homepage, if they listen to Static X, and they'll go, oh, there's some news about Static X. Let me check this out. And then from there, they discover the podcast. So and then we give them content. They're transcribing our show and we're giving them content. So it's a win-win. I don't really get why you wouldn't cover that type of stuff if you're a military outlet. I mean, an example, we always do it on the show ourselves. I was talking hockey with your friend, Chris Dykos.
Yeah.
Because I know he's a big hockey guy. He was talking
Yeah.
about the Seattle Kraken, and he's a super nice guy, man. He's like, I hate the Islanders. You can come out here anytime for a game.
Yeah.
But the reason I mention him is I said to him, because it's true, his show is one of the top 10 shows we've ever done now at this point in terms
Chris
of
is
streams.
awesome guy. Yeah, great guy.
Yeah.
Great guy. Tremendous
So-
ranger.
Yeah, absolutely. The reason I bring this up, though, is if you remember, the title of that show was CIA contractors turned hired hitmen. Now, where did we get that article? We got it, if I remember correctly, from Connecting Vets. And I read the article on the show, and I'm going to say, hey, you can check out the full article at Connecting Vets. And then that way it gives us content. People are going to check out our show and we'll give the credit to them. And that's always how I've done things. It's not so much a competition because it's like, if you listen to us, it doesn't mean you can't also listen to Jocko or Joe Rogan and read Connecting Vets. It's all the same genre, really. So.
I agree, man. So I think we set ourselves apart from others is that we are willing to do that. We are recommending, hey, go listen to those guys, go listen to that guy, go listen to whoever you want, go listen to the left, go listen to the far right, get crazy out there, listen to everything. Because it does help. It helps everyone out, in my opinion. Whether you like us or you don't, it's still exposure, and exposure in the media business, good or bad, does help. But when it becomes a competition, and there is, and because I've been in the gun community for so long, because I've been in the veteran community, I've seen it grow. I got in at the ground, at the beginning stages with the lone survivors and the American snipers and the 13. I mean, where it grew, where there was just, there was a few known and that was it. Now it's like everybody's, it's almost like I call it the Paris Hilton of the gun community. Everybody's a rock star now because of your social media following, which is bullshit. But I think there's a strict competition there now too, where you can't go with somebody else because you might lose some followers to them, or you might be faking the funk. What I mean by that, you may not be saying what you really are. You may be saying you're completely something different, guys, because you're not really, you don't have the background that you say you do. And if you do start to cross over, you do start to have other people that actually do have the background that you say they do. They may call you out, and people might start to find out you are not what you say you are. You're faking it. I call it faking the funk. And I think there's a lot of that in the gun community as well, because we get on YouTube, we shoot a lot of guns, and now this guy, he's an operator, and that's not the case. In fact, that's generally almost 9 times out of 10 not the case at all. So if we start to partner with each other, tell me, because we start to partner with that, you start to partner with somebody that is. Now their followers are going to start background checking you. Like, wait a second, he said he was a Ranger. Hey, let me ask this Ranger. And it happens. That's what happens. People start to find out, no, he really isn't a Marine. No, he wasn't a SEAL. He was an SBU guy. Not that's a bad thing, but they start checking each other. And that's something in the gun community that goes on, and people that lie about their backgrounds go on quite a bit. So there's also another thing why we don't share with each other, because those that are getting $8 million, or they're not, but having follower after follower after follower, but aren't really what they say they are, people are going to find out if we continue, if we share with each other, if we start to say, hey, go listen to Tano's, go listen to Jocko's, go listen to go listen to 100 Deadly Skills. People will find out eventually. All right, but go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no. The funny thing is, and this is not a case of someone faking their background. This is just a case of a bad title, in my opinion. I saw that you were on with Hank Strange, and I don't know if you noticed, it's the title on the YouTube video. They should have titled it differently.
What Lola titled it? I didn't see it.
It said Chris Peranto, author and Army Ranger Hank Strange. So it read like Hank Strange was an Army Ranger, which I know he would never say that he is.
I don't think so.
It read very strange. Like it should have said author and Army Ranger Chris Peranto and Hank Strange.
And that was fun. Hank, some people don't like Hank. I love Hank.
Oh, Hank's the man. Super nice, humble, and just down to earth guy.
And his wife Lola is tremendous. And dude, I tell you, we had a hell of a time just trying to get it on. We could 30 minutes. We were trying to get everything synced up, and it wouldn't work, but. That interview, guys, I would recommend. That was a fun interview with him and Ghost. We just talked about everything, and Hank is a great guy, and And the video was actually really cool that we did. So if you get a chance to listen to Hank's show, especially with me on it, hey, go listen to it. We just laughed and had a tremendous fun time on the show and talked about guns, but talked about life and talked about other things, which is what honestly military shows should be, and gun shows should be guns. The show should be life. It does emulate life in some aspects, and how we should live our lives. That's what I said. Bullet goes down range. You can't take it back. You readjust, re-aim, and refire. Well, what does that mean? That means if you make a mistake, hey, you can't take that back. Don't complain about it. Fix it and try again. That's essentially what I meant when I said that. Is it analogy, or is it, what is that? What's the term for that?
Like it.
So the gun community, we can be such mentors to the rest of the world, to be honest with you, if we would find a way to get over ourselves a little bit. Our buddy that passed away was tremendous at calling.
Oh yeah, John Bartolo. Yeah,
John Bartolo was awesome at calling that stuff out. I miss his banter, because he really he says the same things I'm saying, but he said it better. So
the one thing I was going to say, looking back though, that he did get wrong, that I think of from that interview, is when he was like, no one knows any songs by Ted Nugent. Ted Nugent is a legend, and people do. And the problem is, I think for those who aren't into rock music, right, who aren't really into rock music, they don't know that if someone is into 70s rock, it was Aerosmith and AC/DC and Ted Nugent is in that same category. The thing is, Ted Nugent has become more known for his political positions than his music. But make no mistake, in terms of his music, as he said on our show, remember, like, the guy has played with Eddie Van Halen, Jimi Hendrix. Like, you don't do that if you're not amazing. So
he has some of the greatest guitar solos ever that will never be replicated. I watch, I don't know if you have internet TV. I do. I don't watch cable. I have Vivo, and there's a 70s. They actually play, it's unlike MTV. They actually play music videos, and they have 70s, 80s, 90s. And there's a whole hour devoted to Ted Nugent of music videos and him just jamming on stage, and the videos that he did with them, and then also Damn Yankees, which, I mean, that's like another iconic group with the lead singer from Styx and him in there, and you just watch it. And I remember there was one, he was on stage again in his little loincloth, a 6-minute guitar solo that was unbelievable. Who does that anymore? Who can do that anymore? This Ted Nugent. So politics aside, Ted Nugent is a fucking rock legend, dude. So I laughed at that too. And Ted Nugent is a great guy. He's a friend. He actually is a friend, and he's crazy. He's a little off his rocker now, literally and figuratively, but he's still an awesome guy. And the dude can still fucking jam.
Oh, absolutely. I like I said, I think people just know him, like, this modern era knows him more as the guy who says crazy political stuff. But like, don't get it wrong, man. Like, he is a legend, without a doubt, in terms of music. The last thing I was going to say, though, in terms of the competition thing, is coming from like the old school radio background, it's a little bit different in terms of that, because, and I remember like working on Andrew Wilkow's show, we don't want to talk about Rush Limbaugh because it's on at the same time. We don't want to remind people like, hey, this is another guy who you could be listening to. Like, we want to own this time slot. This is our time slot. But in the world of podcasts, there is none of that. And so many of our listeners are truck drivers, right? And they're driving for hours on end. And they could turn us on, and then they could listen to Jason Piccolo, and then they could listen to Rogan. So that was the last thing I was going to say about that. And then the other funny thing about the amount of exposure we got was just that it was almost like a TikTok video, but they're doing those YouTube shorts of you saying you're a Mexican white supremacist. And suddenly that blew up on our YouTube with the shorts. So hopefully that gets us some new listeners as well.
Man, whatever the little catchphrases that are viral, but viva la tanto, dude. Come on, man. I actually said that. I told you. I remember I said that at a speaking event long time ago when I first started speaking. But my dad's white. My dad's from West Texas. He grew up hard as hell too, poor as dirt farmer. You know, my mom's Mexican. I look more white. And actually, when I speak, a lot of times I'll speak more with a drawl than I will with a Mexican accent.
I'll say this, as someone who's grown up like around Mexican people, and there's no disrespect, because you can say the same about me being Jewish Italian. You have the Mexican nose.
Well, that's what I thought. I think I do, but I did. Somebody came up. What do you think about racism and being white? It was at a and it was a more political event. And I looked at. She didn't know. She had no idea. I was like, well, my mother's last name is Garcia. My middle name's Joaquin, named after my grandfather. So I guess I'm a Mexican racist. And the whole crowd blew up laughing. But that's where I got it from. It's like, who's the actual racist here, Miss Pearl clutching white elitist? Is it you because I don't look like Cheech Marin from Cheech and Chong? Am I supposed to look like a certain style of Mexican, or because I maybe have a little bit more white features, or even some? I think my grandma had a little Navajo in her too. But because I don't look like that stereotypical what you see on TV Mexican that I'm. And that's kind of what I should have said it that way. I just hadn't got wet enough yet in the speaking world to know what to say to slow things down.
But it was also just improvisational.
Yeah. But that's where I was like, man, there really is reverse discrimination out here, especially on the white side of the house, guys. And
I mean, I wouldn't call it reverse discrimination. Any discrimination is discrimination. I don't think it needs to have a separate name.
You know what? Cheers. I like it. I like that, brother. Cheers on that.
I mean,
I'm with you.
I think it's kind of a outdated term at this point. I mean, I think there's discrimination.
But you got to remember, I am old, so I'm using an outdated term. I use that a lot. I'm like an MS-DOS computer. I got to update, so it helps me out.
We got to get to our guests, but I'll go through these really quick because I was talking about the podcast and how like new listeners were coming on board. I read something. This guy got the podcast from Blabbermouth, right? And I saw that he wrote. Jeremy Swain, this podcast just may well have become my fuel to continue on as a musician. As many of my fans may know, since 2018, I've not only backed away from music, but had a second chance at my music career, as well as failed twice. This podcast has refueled my optimism and ambition to continue on. And not only will I use my failures for fuel, they will become my success. Thank you, Edsel Dope. So I thought that was cool. It's cool that new people are checking us out. And then we got to get to our guests, but I wanted to ask you this real quick. This is sent to Battleline
I'll hurry, dude. I'll hurry.
Battlelinepodcast@gmail.com. And this is from our friend Dave in Oshawa, Ontario. And people loved the movies episode. So Ian, I've been busy on a trip, so I only finished this episode just now. Great episode. I really like the reality checks from Chris and other vets. Talk of funny military movies reminded me of this one, and I'd love to know if you or Chris have seen it and what you think. Delta Farce with Larry the Cable Guy and Danny Trejo as a mindless, ridiculous comedy. I love it.
It's in the same genre as in the Army now. Pauly Shore, but Pauly Shore's was better. I sorry, Larry the Cable Guy, you're good and all, but Pauly is a better actor. So and you had Andy Dick in the Army now too, which was awesome. But Delta Farce is hilarious. It's just another off the cuff funny one that you watch and you see stuff in there like, God, that is hilarious. I wish I would do that for real, but you couldn't. So Delta Farce, guys, if you want to laugh. And if you like stuff like in the Army now, Pauly Shore, then you got to watch Delta Farce. And if you like Larry the Cable Guy and all that sort of redneck humor, the Jack Foxworthy, the Bill Engvall type humor, it's funny. It's funny. Just don't take it too seriously. For all you guys taking that shit way too seriously, you need to go seek therapy because you got to have a chance to laugh.
How can you take a military movie, the Larry the Cable Guy?
Yeah, exactly. But it's funny. And they had the skinny. He used to be in movies, a skinny guy. Real skinny kid. He was in a lot of like Van Wilder type movies. He's in it. I can't remember his name. You don't see him too much anymore, but it's a great movie. It's great and it's hilarious and it's something to sit back and just laugh at and honestly poke fun at ourselves. That's the self-deprecating humor is one of the greatest skills I learned at Ranger Battalion. And that's the ability to poke fun at yourselves. Every Ranger can do the shit. Well, look at Article 15. Look at Mad Best. They made millions off doing that. So it is some skill that Rangers all have, and we love it, dude. And that's the ability to look at and make fun of yourself, not on social media, actually in front of somebody, poke fun at yourself. And that's what Delta Force did. It poked fun at special operations a little bit, but it was hilarious. So did so I loved it. I thought it was hilarious. Great movie.
So check it out. As always, you can send us your emails to battlelinepodcast@gmail.com. Before we get to Ed Ford and Alan Chiasin, Fort Scott Munitions, they sponsor every show. They are a manufacturer of multi-federal patented solid copper and brass CNC spun ammunition. It's designed to tumble upon impact in soft tissue, leaving devastating wound channels for faster bleed out and quicker incapacitation. This ammunition was originally developed to innovate and improve on the standard of military-grade ammunition design. It was found that not only did the TUI ammunition outperform competitors in the self-defense industry, but it quickly became apparent that it will be a top contender for hunters alike. With the ammunition being CNC spun, the tolerances are some of the tightest on the market, ensuring that you receive the same results with each pull of the trigger. Fort Scott Munitions is available throughout privately owned businesses in all 50 states. You just go to the dealer locator at fsm.com But they're also selling it there, and that's where you'll get a discount with us. Use the exclusive promo code BattleLine for 15% off your order, only available to listeners of the BattleLine podcast. Fort Scott Munitions is a proud supporter of Chris Peranto, BattleLine Tactical, and the BattleLine podcast. I look forward to being back out there soon. And yeah, what do you want to?
Actually, we've got just right quick for when Christmas comes up, we're starting the tins again. Well, BattleLine Tactical tins coming out for Fort Scott Munitions. They're the little tins, kind of like what Ian has right there.
Right here.
But they'll have BattleLine Tactical on them, and of course, I'll sign them. And sign up for email alerts on Fort Scott Munitions website, or sign up for email alerts on christanoperano.com. And when they pop up, you'll be the first ones to be notified and grab those things. They're really cool, dude. So just want to put that out there.
Yeah, those are awesome. So check them out. And once again, fsm.com, promo code BattleLine. And yeah, they've been supporting us from the very beginning. Yep. Now you can have the superpower to see in the dark with the Viper Binocular Vision, night vision system by Photonis Defense, which is the global leader in night vision solutions, providing more high-quality night vision capabilities than anyone. Military, law enforcement, and public safety end users utilize Photonis Defense solutions to give them the edge at night in tactical situations and rescue operations. And hunters, shooters, boaters, and enthusiasts can rely on the Photonis Defense Viper Binocular to help them become master of darkness, their trademark. The new Viper Binocular system carries the same features and benefits as the Photonis Defense Viper Monocular, with a ruggedized body, and harnesses the power of the Echo Intensifier tubes, giving you sharper images, reduced halo, and industry-leading ultra-fast auto-gating across the range of dynamic operating conditions. I know in December you have, of course, coming up with Phil Otto, and we'll have Phil Otto back on from Photonis Defense. Yep. But this is something that you train with personally.
Gosh, and guys, it's the best night vision out there by far. And for those that come to the course, will see it. You'll be able to use it. It's unbelievable how clear it is, the clarity and the auto gating, which means the auto focusing. But how fast that is as well. So you guys, since we're getting to our guests, I got to cut it short. But if you use night vision, or you're in a department that uses night vision, or you're military that uses night vision, give your people the best chances to come home safely and to come home to their families. And if you're not using Photonis Defense night vision, then you're not giving your people the best chances to come home safely. And if you're a hunter, hands down, best there is out there. Tremendous. And those who come to the NVG course will see that.
Absolutely. Check it out, guys. PhotonisDefense.com, PHOTONIS defense.com, PHOTONIS defense.com for more information, or look for Photonis Defense product options from your night vision dealer. So joining us for the first time on BattleLine podcast is Ed Ford and Alan Chason, and Doc Alan. I apologize. I definitely mispronounced your name during the intro, as you'll hear. So Alan Chason, they're the authors of Postcards Through Hell, the first-hand account of the Pony Express U.S. mail service in Afghanistan. Now, just to get into both your backgrounds here, Ed served prior as a recon Marine, combat deployments as a Marine and contractor to Somalia, Iraq, Afghanistan, the Gulf War. And then Alan, Doc Chason, served prior as a hospital corpsman in the Navy for high-risk medical support during deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan, certified paramedic in the state of Texas. But you guys were both contractors when this took place, the Pony Express. The thing I was going to ask you before we get into anything, because I just wanted to clarify this, I was going to say by the time people hear this, the book is going to be available. But when I go to postcardsthroughhell.com and I click on the Amazon link or the Barnes & Noble link, I don't see it up yet. So is that still going to be the case, or has the release date been pushed back or something?
Still going to
the publication date is the 21st. But Amazon doesn't carry the link until the distribution date, which is like a day or two later. So we have a buy it now feature on the website, but until the book's available on Amazon, it won't be available on our website either.
Got you, because I went to the website and I just wanted to make sure. So when people hear this on Monday, they'll be able to get it. But yeah, the thing about the book itself is, I think when people hear, oh, delivering mail in Afghanistan and the Pony Express, they're like, oh, this is a cool deployment, and it's the most dangerous thing that you guys, with all your experience, have ever done. I mean, 10 people died doing what you were doing alongside both of you guys.
Oh, yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
So
it did have its risks involved. I mean, especially during the fighting season. yeah, between April and November, you know, it was on. It was fighting season, and yeah, I think that's when a lot of guys would want to join the program, and then after their first fighting season, they were out. They were saying that this ain't for me, man.
Let's get into it's from the beginning, because I do you with mail and the mail service and things, you kind of take it for granted when you're over there. You really don't. It's like, I'm just getting my mail. You don't really realize how it's getting to you unless it's on the back of a chopper and it gets to you from the back of a chopper. But you never think about, well, how did it get to that chopper to get to Kandahar, to get to Lashkar, to get up to Chapman? You never think about that. Or when I was in Kabul. So start from the beginning. Just how did you get into it? I mean, your military service is over. We've got that, and God bless you. Thank you for your services, guys. Especially you, Marine. I got to thank the Marine, because I don't want him to get upset. I got to give him special thanks, because just always got to give that Marine special thanks.
Oh, thank you.
But no, thank you for
I can do the podcast now.
No. But how did you guys find out about it? And who actually, is it through KBR? What contracting company is that? And that's for my own, just a lot of people won't know. I would like to know who's it through, but how do you get into it, first of all? And let's just start from there.
I guess what SOC was the SOC was the
no shit. SOC was the one. No, okay.
Yeah, they picked up the contract.
Yeah.
They picked up the contract for the mail. Well, they actually, in Afghanistan, they picked up the first mobile contract for our other friends.
Oh no, I that's who I worked with them. I know SOC.
Yeah. The
SOC
USA, work for, but they were in Afghanistan. We would do secure drops. We do secure loads, whether it be fuel, a reefer truck full of food, vehicles. We would do those secure drops for them on some of their fobs, on some of their sites. They weren't even really fobs. I mean,
yeah.
Some of them were just like HESCO walls, perimeter.
Yep.
And I remember we'd end up in places like Shkin.
I've been to Shkin.
Yeah.
I've been to Shkin and Shindan and all those cool all those shush places. So, So it was. And did you guys know each other before you went there, or did you meet each other at the?
Well, we met in Baghdad in 2005.
Okay, what were you doing there?
I was with Crucible then. I was a trainer for the PSD program. Sure. Working for DynCorp. We were subcontracted by DynCorp, so we were the trainers for the PSD, the Shark teams.
I do.
We go out and evaluate the teams, and we train them and then evaluate them. And Al showed up either right before or right after Team 3 got hit.
It was after November 2005.
November 2005, because Team 3 got hit in December 2005.
Was that on BIOP? Team 3 got hit on BIOP?
No, they were right
on. We were at the Baghdad hotel.
Oh, you're at the hotel then they got hit. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. I was at the hotel. I was on another run evaluating that run, and as soon as they got back, they told me, "Hey, we had an incident, and one of your guys, he was out there as an evaluator, Kyle. He got killed by an EFP, and just took down the rear gun truck, and then they had to fight their way back to the rear gun truck, extract and then control the situation, and then extract the wounded. And then the Army rolled up as a QRF to extract the casualties and the KIAs. And then after that, I know Kyle was in the military system, the DOD system for going home. So I went to the mortuary affairs at BAFT, ID the body, which was pretty tough to do. I mean, he had no head at the time. And then also, make sure all his paperwork was handled so that they could get him home.
And that was before you guys were started. You guys hadn't started yet in the postal service.
No. This was like 2005. This was like, geez, like.
That's when we met. In 2008, we were both working for SOC. Ed was in Afghanistan and I was still in Iraq. And they were doing secure drops for other companies. We hadn't picked up the mail contract yet.
Okay.
But one of their teams got hit on a run to Oregon E, I believe it was.
Yeah, Oregon E, Shkin.
Yeah, and they didn't have a medic on board. So my name got dropped in the hat. I got voluntold to go up. So I went.
And that's when and that was SOC. That was before the beginning. All right. So you got all that done. And actually that skin, I remember that was that a State Department team that was doing that run that got hit there? I just remember there was a team that got that I was a GRS at the time when that thing happened. And I do remember there was just pieces of the bomber. Actually, he had decorated himself so well that his face actually, and that's what they want. The face came off, but it was still intact. So it was just the skin on the mask laying on the ground there. But I don't remember. It was on J-Bad Road as they were heading out. I don't remember if it was that move.
Oh, yeah, that's a different incident.
But yeah, they those guys, it was super crazy out there at that point in time. All right, so it's 2008. So you guys are doing this. How do you get picked up to go into what you wrote the book about, the mail? Is it respectful to call it the postal mail delivery service, or is there some cool term that you guys use that you wanted us to call it on the show?
Well, we call it the Pony Express.
Yeah. Pony Express, of course. Okay, Pony Express. So we'll just call it from there on out. The Pony Express. How did you guys get picked up, or what happened? I know there's just not flyers. Well, sometimes in country there are. You'll find, hey, come join us here. But how did you find out about it, or was it just an inner office with SOC? Sometimes they'll come through an email, say, guys that qualify, you'll get this email. Hey, do you want to join this new fangled thing we got going on? Here's your pay. Or did you guys just fall into it?
Yeah, we just kind of fell into it because we were already a mobile team. We were already on the ground. So when they picked up the mail contract, we just started doing the runs for the mail. And then we realized, hey, we need 4 teams. So we'd keep 3 teams on the ground at one time. One team was going home on vacation. So it was a 3-on 1-off rotation also.
Wow.
We were able to keep 4 teams up and running, 3 on the ground at any given time.
Hey, well, Doc, since the Marines hogging up the spotlight here, I'll ask this question to you, buddy. I love giving you shit. I love you, man. Hey, Doc, on this question, and again, Ed, go ahead and chime in if you want to here. What does a day consist of with doing the Pony Express? What's the typical day sitting up? So you guys are in it. You guys are just starting it. Let's just start from day one. It's your first day. What do? Or do you just, again, are you just learning on the fly and just trying to figure it out?
Well, for me, it was a learning curve because I had done so much work in PSD. I had never done any convoy work, so it was OJT. But with the 3 teams that Ed was referring to, we had one team that was scheduled on the long hauls. We'd have another team that would do what they call the ring road or the ring route in Kabul, which is a short run. And then they would also function as a QRF. So if something happened, and then the third team would either be down doing some training or whatever not. So let's say a team's going out to Ghazni, they make their runs. If something goes on, they hit their ping. The QRF is alerted. We go and respond and take care of business. We have to cross deck. We have to haul or tow vehicles or do whatever to make sure that everybody comes back all right. But for the most part, it was the long haul that was the dangerous one.
So what was your TO&E? What was your setup? What were your vehicle setups? What kind of weapons were you carrying? Did you have technicals? Did you have Afghani support? Any security forces? Did you have any military on standby? No. So yeah, I'm curious. What was your setup? Because I'm sure we probably ran across each other and probably tried to run each other off the road a few times. I didn't even know it. So I'm curious.
We were running Ford F-550
that's cool, yeah.
Armored vehicles. They were from straight USA, made them level 7 armor, had 2 gun turrets on it. And we ran Top Gunners that were carrying PKMs, and then we carried M4s and AK-47s for the local nationals and whatnot. The Achilles heel was the flat bottom chassis on the truck. So if we ever got hit directly underneath, then it would either split the truck in half or flip it upside down. So it was pretty devastating.
No ballistic armor, no ballistic blankets, nothing underneath the car, or just blankets just to protect you guys.
They had Kevlar type of a deal, but I mean that's minuscule protection when you talk about IEDs and whatnot. So it's level 7 armor. It'll defeat multiple small arms, firearms, whatever. Maybe an RPG 5, but certainly an RPG 7 would
punch it.
Damage.
Yeah, we've seen that happen before. I mean, I responded to some Brits that happened.
We never had any heavy heavy weapons. We ran parallel to another group called the Four Horsemen that carried Dishkas and they carried RPGs and whatever. Now we tried to come up with some kind of a mutual agreement that if anything happened to them, we would provide some medical care, and if anything happened to us, they'd give us the heavy weapons. But that never really happened. So
Ed, I know you're itching, buddy. What'd you see, man? When again,
Yeah,
typical
like I
day,
said,
so-
like Al said, the Achilles heel on those F-550s was the flat bottom. Anytime, and once they figured it out, once the Taliban figured it out, I mean, then it was like catastrophic takedown. I mean, that was it. Up until then, small arms would bounce off of it. Buddha had an RPG. It wasn't angled right, or maybe it wasn't armed right.
Armed right, yeah.
Skip off the side of his vehicle. And he's like, I just saw it, man. I saw my own death. And I was like, oh, dude. But yeah, it was that flat bottom that I mean, it was once they got on it, once they got the ID underneath, it was 100% vehicle takedown, casualties.
Wow.
Chris, you're familiar with Ring Road, right?
Say again, I lost you.
You're familiar with Ring Road.
Oh yeah, you're talking in Kabul, Ring Road in Kabul.
In Ring Road in Afghanistan, period, from Kabul to Kandahar to Herat,
Yes.
and back around it. So anywhere out in the open country, you're running coverts about every 1,000 feet. You're going over a covert. Either that, or there's a road that's been destroyed, or a bridge that's out of commission that you have to take a detour around to get back up on Ring Road. So there's so many places and so many opportunities for them to plant IEDs. That go unchecked. If we're lucky enough, we try to go behind the Army's engineers. They're running their sappers and their R2s and their buffaloes and their hunter killers. If we can get behind them, they can clear the route for us. But even then, like Ed's first hit was near Calf when they were detoured by the U.S. Army to go off road, and they hit a mine strike.
Yeah.
So the Army's already clearing an ID on the road, and then these guys get hit on the off road. And it was just like, wow, the advantage of that was that they had medevac capability right there on the spot.
Well, because you're calf. Well, that calf was always dangerous. In fact, we started flying, and we're very blessed to have hips at our disposal. So we just said, screw it, we're not driving anymore. If we need to go anywhere, let's jump a hip and fly somewhere and just detour it all. Well, getting into that, you're doing this for a while. How soon was it before you really took? And if you can't talk about it, we get it. But if you can, it's a good story, especially since you guys are here about perseverance and overcoming. But your first major, you talked about just now with Ed and Doc, the first hit. What happened? What went through your head? And did you feel any different than when you were running PSD, or was it the same sort of thought process? Or because you're not doing PSD, you're doing the Pony Express, did your mindset change at all? I seriously doubt it, but I just like to know. I mean, just because it is different, it's a different job. It's a different package now, literally, because you're carrying inanimate objects instead of an actual person, but your life's still in danger. But I get, but it does. At least in my head, my mind always kind of changed a little bit. It did. But what was your feelings when that first hit came? And was it at that calf area, or were you going up towards Chapman, or were you going around towards Herat, or what was going on?
I mean, I ended up losing two vehicles on two separate occasions. The first one was the one we just talked about back in November 2009. Mine strike, got diverted. We were out and about, and I was out of the vehicle at the time, looking for alternate route, trying to get the convoy through. And then all of a sudden, my lead driver, he backs up, and right rear tire hits the mine. And you hear the boom, and then you look over, and then I just saw the bumper fly up, and then I was like, oh shit. And then I jump into the ditch because I thought it was a complex attack.
Sure.
But it wasn't. So then we just started running in towards the down vehicle. And then that's when I think it was Buddha that yelled out, hey, I think we're in a minefield. And then that's when everybody stops and you start looking for all the little footsteps you can step into. But yeah, it was like you fall back on your training. You're never going to rise to the occasion. You're always going to fall back on your training. And then it all just comes down to even, giving a good op order, running through your rehearsals. It doesn't have to be anything complex, but just getting everybody to work together as that team, fixing that flat tire, setting up that toe, cross-decking in casualties. which always seems to take a lot longer in real life. Boy. But it all falls back to, you're always going to default back to your training. So we ended up going, getting to the vehicle, treating the casualties. And a funny story here is, see all this white pulpy stuff splattered around the back of the vehicle. And I'm like, hey, check their mouths. I think they're spitting their teeth out. And so Buddha and the other guy, Dave, swept their nose. They're like, no, they're good. They're good. And then I think it was Dave was like, hey, it's the pomegranates. They exploded. The overpressure from the mine strike blew up the pomegranates. So yeah, so we always laughed about that one. I was like, exploding pomegranates. Who knew? And then my second time was when I lost when I took my first 2 KIA on the way to it was on the way to Organy, from Sharona to Organy. And
it's on Route Jeep.
Yeah,
that's the Route Jeep. Yeah.
And that's when I lost my lead gun truck again. And it was a like double stacked Italian anti-tank mines. They went ahead and they hit them with it. They had them connected to wires. They touched the battery and boom. Wow. Once again, the training kicks in. You make your call. Hey, let everybody know what's going on. Then you're getting up there. You're treating the casualties. Yeah, but it's very humbling. This first time you see one of you guys in the field that you just put there, it's very humbling. I mean, to sit down there and see them dead. As I remember looking at running up to that lead vehicle, and Fawad, I mean, it blew him out of the vehicle, and he was laid on his side, and all I could see was, I was like, God, let this be a sleeping bag. Let this be a sleeping bag. And I reached down, grab him by the shoulder and roll him over. And now he was dead, and his legs were amputated at the knees, but there was no blood. So that's how quick he died. But Doc Buddha, I mean, once again, I mean, he was an experienced paramedic, street paramedic. He dealt with lots of death before. I looked up, rolled him over, and I must have given him that stupid look like, gee, Doc, can you fix him? And he's like, fuck him, he's gone, let's go. And I was like, yeah, no shit, let's go. Boom. You kick into that mindset, work to save the living. Yeah. So we got to the back of the truck, and then my ATL, my buddy Scott Brown, comes out of the right front seat with an AK-47. The blast blew off all of his gear because he had the chest plates on, gotcha. Not full wraparound.
Yep.
So he had a AK-47, and he's running up a hill, and I'm chasing after him. So he gets up the hill, and he's like, dude, I'm so fucked up. I'm on adrenaline right now. I was like, dude, whatever you do, do not leave here. All right, we got to be able to get you. And he's like, I'm on adrenaline. I'm so fucked up right now. I was like, all right, we're going to get out of here. We go back down, and I help them pull Pero, the Serb driver, out of the vehicle. And yeah, you could tell just by looking at him, he was gone. He was coughing up coat, sure. Lots of blood. And I was like, God damn, sorry, bro. I'll catch you on the other side, I guess. But he lasted like 15 minutes, I think. And Buddha, once again, he's working him to the very end, just trying to save him.
Well, that's the beauty of medics. That's why medics, right? That's why we love them, man.
Yeah,
and especially if they've got that sort of training, because they can compartmentalize what's in front of their face and
trying to beat the odds to save Pero. And we got everything consolidated, got the casualties all picked up and put into vehicles, and we got Scott. Turns out after we got Pero into the vehicle, I was getting the convoy ready to move again because we're going to get out of there. And Buddha carried Scott down off the hill. So then he's like, dude, I'm smoked. I can't carry him anymore. So I just grabbed him, threw him up in a fireman's carry, and I carried him to the truck. And kind of funny, kind of not, but he's like, dude, be careful when you put him down in the bumper. Scott's about my size, so I'm just trying, and then all of a sudden everything just shifted the wrong way. I was like, boom, and he's like, screaming. I was like, sorry, bro. And I'm like, God damn it.
People don't.
Because I mean, at this time, you got to realize Scott had like a broken back and 2 fractures in his pelvis when he ran up that hill.
Yeah.
I mean, he's one of the toughest dudes I've ever met.
Why?
And then for the next 3.5 hours till we got out of that valley, and he just manned a PKM.
And just the adrenaline
the whole time.
Oh, and you dropping him probably didn't help with this.
No, I know. Jesus, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think people get that, and I'm glad you guys it's laugh because you gotta laugh. I laughed all the time to get through it. You have to, the silliness, and you think back at it, and it's almost ludicrous because it's like, really, this is such trauma. There's so much tragedy going on right now, but there's actually some comic relief in here. And
yeah,
only those that really can. And it compartmentalizes it again. I can say that can laugh, and that's how you get through it. If you can't laugh, then you go in the black. You panic. You go out. That you they let the adrenaline take you over, and there's no release, and then you're not worth the shit to anybody. So it's never disrespect.
That dopamine dump is only about the half-life is maybe minutes when you talk about adrenaline, and when that stuff wears off, you're I mean, what was keeping him up? The survival of his team. It takes 3 hours to get out of the valley. The military's not going to come in and give you any QRF support whatsoever. And he stands on this PKM for 3 hours.
That's tough.
I mean, that's a testimony to just how tough these guys were. And I think that's what attracted me so much to the Pony Express, because those guys, they didn't fuck around. When we weren't running missions, we were QRF. When we weren't QRF, we were working out. When we weren't working out, we were training. We ate together. We slept together. We lived together. It was just like it's a family, And I think that Scott probably knew that just as well as Ed did. And you're just keeping your brothers alive, and that's what he did. And there's no reward other than the pat on the back that you give to yourself, or what we do when we tell this story to other people.
Well, and if you're doing it to look for rewards or accolades, then you shouldn't be there anyway.
Oh, no, that's true.
Once again, like I said earlier, that fighting season weeded all of that out.
Was that generally where it usually was in the spring when the snow started to melt?
April to like end of October.
Yeah, well, because and it was beautiful. The weather was so beautiful then too. It's like everybody starts to come out. It's like a bear starting to come out of hibernation, and you just started to see shit pick up. Now, when you guys first, and whoever wants to answer this, and you both can, did you know it was going to be as dangerous as it was when you signed up, or what drew you? Doc, you just kind of said that what drew you to it was the brothers, the brotherhood. You're going to be with guys that you want to be around, but did you know, or did you even have stories that this shit is really dangerous, or did that what you drew you to it, or did you just ignorantly say, I'm going to sign up, let's go try it, screw it, it's something new?
Yeah, I left the contract in December of 2009, and then I went back with DynCorp on a task order mission in Kandahar. Okay. And then when I got hired, it was by another company called Reed. And when I got the job, they were telling me, it's really dangerous. They had 5 guys that were killed just a couple of months ago. And Ed was down at one of the FOBs, and we were talking back and forth. And when I finally got up to Kabul, it was my old company. It was SOC. It had gotten bought out by Reed International, I believe. And it's the same job, different T-shirt type thing.
Yeah.
And then I said, wow, these are my old trucks. These are my old buddies. So I was back home again. It was really cool. So, and that's when I reconnected with Ed again in 2012. So.
Was that a good thing, or was that like, holy shit, here's Ed, fucking A, I got to deal with this?
Well, he was on his way out the door, and I was in. We actually, that contract lasted up until December of 2016. But the new company,
a long time to have one for a company to hold one contract. Holy shit.
Yeah, and they had 2 other subcontracts that were classified. So we actually ended up deleting something like 8 chapters out of there. We can't mention anybody's name, talk about any of the missions, because they were ODA classified missions and stuff like that. So kind of feel like some of the guys are getting robbed, but we had to have a starting point and we had to have an ending point. So it's, basically from 2009 to 2012.
Well, getting into the book itself, since we are getting into the book, one of the interesting things I have to say, for one, it's a cool format, how you guys start off with like these interesting quotes that relate to that time period, quotes from everyone from like George W. Bush at the time to, military leaders and that kind of thing. But the interesting thing is how you have the actual dates of what happened on this date, April 30th. This is where we were. This is what was going on. So I was wondering, did you guys or either of you keep a journal? Like, how did you know specific dates that well? Or is it just like news archives?
A lot of these, like with serious incident reports, you have to send those up. Like if you lose a vehicle, if guys get hurt and injuries or deaths or loss of vehicle or equipment, you got to fill out an incident report.
You guys were able to keep it because we weren't able to, that was classified shit that we weren't able to keep.
I kept all mine. I mean, I kept all.
You're not do we need to delete that, Ed? I don't want fucking DOD coming towards you and coming.
I kept mine, and
that's awesome.
And I kept mine, so we were able to build off of that.
Gosh, I wish I would have kept mine. That's fucking amazing.
And Al's a writer already. He was already a published writer for Tactical Medicine I'll let Al explain it. But we just got together and it's like, all right, let's put all this together, and we went with it from there.
That's fucking awesome. I know I cut you off there a bit because I just didn't. I wish, looking back now, I wish I would have kept a lot of that paperwork, the incident reports, the run reports, the op orders, the maps, everything. Yeah, we couldn't. Obviously, the agency really cleared us out, and then State Department even got really bad for a little while too. But when I was there, and even DOD. But dude, having all that, that's just. I bet that's just for you, and just for your mentality, for just being here for a little bit. I bet you look back at that and just smile, even the bad stuff. I bet you're just like, man, that was.
Well, yeah, I mean, you were with some of the baddest dudes ever, and I mean, let's face it, there's only a handful of us that can say that.
And you guys, guy, that's that road again. That's how dangerous that ring road is. And actually, Doc, I want to ask you this. That's a long ass route. How long were those routes? Some of those, I mean, and especially if you get stuck at a point that you can't cross where, like I said, bridges blown out or the roads just shit, or even just during the rainy season. I mean, shit, a lot of that shit you can't drive in very well. What do you do? Do you hunker down?
That's a 2-point response, really. It's about an 18-hour trip if you were to, as the crow flies from one end to the other. We call it the 1,000-kilometer club, where we actually make a run from Kabul all the way to Herat and then return. And only a few of the guys that were actually able to do it, but the reward was kind of like the bragging rights. And that was just basically running unimpeded, no incidents, no stopping points, no breaks, nothing like that. So you're just running hardcore.
That rarely happened, did it? I mean, I can't imagine that happened.
It was very rare. And the few exceptions were when we either didn't have loads, and we were doing returns, or we were doing other missions like supporting DGI or other contracts that we had to use the gun trucks for. So, but the interesting thing about that is that, when Ed's talking about the fighting season, it's really no time to kind of let your guard down, because when the wintertime hits, you're still running these missions. Now we're talking about snow, icy conditions, off-road conditions, it's a lot of unfavorable stuff going. We ran at night quite a bit. We ran without headlights a lot of times just to reduce our signature on the road. And it was just like another element of danger, or what it's like to live in Kabul. Hell, you're basically breathing your own shit, because when everybody, what's there left to burn but feces and fucking wood?
And people realize all them there's no closed sewers. It's all open sewers. So
it's all open sewer, man. And it basically permeates into the air and it comes down to this brown. I'd rather live in a dust storm in Iraq than the stuff that we had to breathe when we were in Kabul in the wintertime. It was just, it was nasty as shit. And it's just all the other things that a lot of people don't think about, these little minuscule stuff that when you add them all together, like the fact that we're eating this crappy ass food and we're breathing this shitty ass air. And I guess it's a godsend when you're working out in elevations above 5,000 feet and you're aerobically in shape and you're eating food without preservatives and you're working out all the time. That's kind of good. But On the other side is you got to deal with bad taste and all the bad smells and all the bad shit, so.
Well, being cooped up in an armored vehicle doesn't, especially if you're wearing body armor, it's not conducive to good healthy spine.
Yeah, I lost an inch and a half over 8 years of deployment. I used to be 6'2". Now it's like 6 foot.
And I know you've said that happened to you before, Chris, as well. I was going to ask about, so Ed was saying Ed kept the incident reports and was saying, Alan, you had a background already as a writer. So when did the idea come about that you said, this is an amazing book? Let's work together and put this out for people to read, because without this book coming out, no one would know about the Pony Express.
Well, we tried to write a series. A buddy of ours that was working on a movie set between Atlanta and Louisiana, he met with one of the writers that was interested, and they started writing these episodes for a pilot that kind of never really materialized. But we saw the value in that. The sad thing was, a lot of times when you talk about true stories, it's based on a true story. It's not an actual true story, where you have this latitude to add some fiction to make it a little bit more interesting. Like we talked about running missions with a female on board, and she gets kidnapped, and we got to go rescue her, and we got to pay ransom, and one of the mail trucks has some CIA money on it, that and I'm just going, this is bullshit. I don't want to talk about that.
I mean, there's some, I mean, I understand, believe me, I understand that completely, working with Michael Bay on that and the 13 hours, but you do have to have the ability. There were times where we like, no, that's too much. Hey guys,
and that's what we said.
We can go a little bit, but you can't go way out, because now it's just fiction. It's not even close to the truth. Yeah.
I when we were talking about writing that ransom and recovery for the female, I told the team leader, I said, I'm not stealing that money. He goes, okay, you can be the doc that's on the good conscience or the bad conscience on my shoulder that says, don't do it. And then he goes ahead and does it anyway, so that we could save our friend. And I told Ed, I said, fuck this shit, man. Let's just write a book ourselves. And we started from there. I had a journal. He had his memoirs. We looked at his after action reports, the op orders, all the incident reports, and we created the timeline, and we put it together, and it to me it looked really good. But we sent out 20 beta copies for review, and we got 12 positive reviews back, and we got one really nasty critique from Scott Husing. He's the best-selling author of Echo and Ramadi. Yeah, and he told us, hey man, this story needs to be told, but it's got to be polished up. And so he turned us on to his editor, and it took a couple years to get all the kinks worked out, but she put us in the right direction. I mean,
I think.
Go ahead.
All I was going to say is the accuracy of the timeline, as Chris was saying, is what really makes this stand out, because people could come up with arbitrary dates and say, it was around this time frame, sometime in April, this happened. The fact that you're able to say April 30th, this is what was going on. May 1st, this was, as Chris knows, I'm an avid reader of like rock biographies, and Nikki Sixx wrote this book about the heroin diaries, his time on heroin. And he has the same thing. This is what happened on this date. And people question that. They said, does someone on heroin really write an entire journal and keep every single date? And you don't know what's fiction, what's not fiction. With the case of your book, as Ed said, you could go, no, these are the incident reports. We have them right here. And that's why we could recall every detail of what went down.
Well, not just incident reports, but there's a lot of historical perspective and parallel events that occurred while we were there that we were able to kind of a coattail off of, when we talk about Camp Chapman and how it was named after Nathan Chapman, and the death of Mickey Spann, and the first American that was killed in Afghanistan. We had the incident with the Four Horsemen. We had we were delivering mail to Ramrod, where they had the kill team. We were at Arena when the Italians were paying the Taliban not to attack them, and so they're not attacking the Italians. Who the fuck are they going to attack? They're going to attack the Pony Express. I'm just going, hey, quit paying these guys, and then start fighting so that we have a chance to live. But all that stuff happened that's documented as well. It's very well documented in terms of the dates that we're actually able to add to the book to give it a little bit more punch.
Maureen, what you got with that? Can you expound on that at all? Or what do you want to add?
Yeah, like Al was saying, a lot did go down, like with the we were there when the suicide bomber, when it got into Chapman.
Yeah, those are my GRS buddies, Southside and Jeremy. And
I was on Chapman in 2009 for a site security manager at they were upbuilding the the outbuildings. There's somewhere to do all that. They could let that guy on there, but I also remember talking to the Blackwater lead, the lead Cobra. He was like, I mean, they weren't happy because he's like, the client will never let us search this.
It was another shitty chief of base that wanted to put stars on, and I remember Southside, they fought it, and they were overruled. And
but we were there a month earlier, and they wouldn't let us on the fob. See, we had to drop our cargo on the outside, and then they came in and got it and brought it on the inside. And I'm just going, okay, here's a bunch of guys got security clearances. We're clearly expats, and they wouldn't let us on. They wouldn't let us on chat.
You're not going to get Chief Frank, buddy. Hey, and it comes down to, and I know you guys, and maybe we'll get into that a little bit because we still got time. I think you guys probably saw that because of just that example right there. This is where we got treated like dog shit, but then they're going to let a suicide bomber get all the way on. Well, why?
Exactly.
Politics, accommodations, attaboys, they always trump safety. Literally, and they do, and you guys saw it, and I'm glad. Talk about that a little bit because I didn't know that.
I think another thing, safety was the business aspect of this. I mean, this was a business. Yeah. I mean, we were on the lower end of the pay spectrum of this business of war. I mean, but it was still a business, and hey, do I spend $6 million in upgrades on vehicles, or do I just roll the dice and that I'm not going to spend $6 million in DBA payouts, and that's how they do, because they want to be in the black.
Yeah.
I mean, every time we took a bad hit and lost a vehicle, I mean, I'd say that was at least $1 million gone between the DBA, the equipment that we had to burn, the DBA for the casualties. At least $1 million, and we ended up burning 1, 2, 3, 4 vehicles when I was there.
Yeah, we burned 2 on my stick.
Yeah. So I mean, once again, I mean, they look at that bottom line too. I mean, is this? I mean, are we going to make a profit off of this? And I think that's one of the reasons Sox sold off the program to IL was in May 2011. Bedford's team got hit, lost 5 guys on the lead gun truck. And, they probably just said, there's no way we're ever going to get in the black. Let's sell the contract. And that was my pivotal moment there too, because right then I was also the director of operations now.
Okay.
I'd gone from being the lead gun truck, the navigator, to team leader, and I was the director of operations.
Wow, man.
And it was my job now to get the bodies recovered, get the team recovered, and then get the bodies back to their families. And I remember being in the Kabul morgue. They brought in Ness and Ben, the Fijian driver, and the Serb ATL. Ness was the Serb ATL, and Ben was the Fijian driver. They brought him in, and I just remember going through their pockets, searching the pockets, and I'm just like, it just hit me right then and there. I mean, I saw myself on the slab next. I was like, all right, this is it, man. You're getting out. So,
Doc, did you feel like there was a time that, and I think we all do, where our number's going to eventually come and it's like, hey, we stay in or we get out? And did you ever have that feeling as well? I did a few times myself. I'm not going to lie and say I didn't. But
my first day there.
That's like, okay, fuck it.
Number one, I get up to Afghanistan and there's nobody at the airport to pick me up, and so I'm going, okay, here it is, trial by fire.
That sucks.
You got to make your way from the airport to the villa without getting kidnapped or killed. Let's see if he pulls this one off. And then our first run, which was to Gecko. This was an ODA site.
Okay.
And
yeah, you guys, yeah. I know Gecko very, very well. Yeah,
well, here's the interesting thing. When we got to Gecko, I mean, they had been waiting for months for their supply. We had to take ammo, food, fuel, weapons, the whole 9 yards. This was a no-show manifest. So it was a classified mission that I guess is declassified now that it happened in 2009. We don't have to worry about that so much. But when we got down there, here's a bunch of SF guys telling us that we're a bunch of badasses. And I'm going, it wasn't humbling. It was like, wow, man, they made us burgers. They got us beer. They hooked us up with med supplies. And they said, you guys got brass balls. Who else in their right mind would ever do this trip? And I was just going, wow, this really felt good to me. And that's what kept me there, was stuff like that. And the only people that give you those kinds of pats on the back are your brothers, are the like-minded individuals, nothing political, nothing pencil-necked, nothing outside of the corporate side of it. Because, when Ed was talking about it being the business side of war, I remember when they got rid of all our expat drivers and replaced them with local nationals. These motherfuckers couldn't drive taxi cabs, let alone a tactical vehicle.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. And that was that DynCorp at the time? Was that DynCorp doing that shit? Because DynCorp,
no, that was SOC.
Oh, SOC doing that shit? I guess
Yeah.
It's tomato. It's the same shit. It's the same shit.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
Thanks, Billy.
so you're going to save money by putting a local national driver in there, so you don't have to pay them the same amount that you would an expat.
But you're gonna make my guys less safe, 110%. I hated that stupid shit. I hated those companies doing that shit. I hate SOC. That's why I went over, even though it wasn't much better, at least we had a little bit more control. Why we went over direct and just started working directly for the actual government agency, because those third party companies were turning worse and worse and worse and worse with shit like that. And that's
I tried to do work on a truck in the middle of the summertime, and the program manager tells me I got to shut the truck off because I'm burning fuel, and I'm using the air conditioner to keep cool while I'm working on the truck. And I was just going, Jesus Christ, it's come down to nickel and dime now. And so those are the things that kind of really piss a guy off, make him want to, if I didn't have to deal with this shit, this would be a pretty damn good job. And it's interesting because there's some things that we wrote in the book that talk about leadership. Were guys that didn't have those kinds of backgrounds. When SOC started, it was SOC SMG. Those were all ex-SF guys.
Yeah.
And when IL took over SOC, it was owned by Todd Wilcox, and he's an ex-Green Beret. So now we weren't operating in a vacuum, and so that was a pretty cool thing too, because when you talk about leadership on guys that know what it's like to have boots on the ground, that takes all that pressure off.
Sure.
It makes your job a lot easier knowing that they actually have your back.
Right. You're going to get, if you write something up and you request something, it's going to legitimately be looked at and considered.
Exactly.
But guys, I admire, because I worked at Gecko. I love work. That was one of my favorite bases to work at, was Gecko. And we did admire that, because by that time we had figured out, fuck driving these roads, let's jump the helicopter, or everything was done at night under nods. So when you guys would come in with stuff, yeah, we were like, fuck yeah, I ain't doing that shit anymore. That's hard shit. That's dangerous. So there was an admiration, and we did depend on you guys. I remember we went 2 weeks once with we had no new food. So I'm going to go over there and eat with my local security guys, my Canada security force. I'm going to eat with them because at least they have something new. I'll eat the meat. I won't eat the eggs with my hands because that still grossed me out like a, but we did admire that because we'd done it, and now it's like, what, the hell with this, we don't have to do it anymore. I'm not going to try to be hard. You guys still have to do it, and you're still doing it. Fuck yeah, that's fucking awesome. So I'm glad to hear that in 2009, because I left Afghanistan and started going to other places in 08, 09, that they still held you guys in high regard, because we did. I know I did, and we depended on you.
A lot of people asked, so why didn't they just bring it in by air? And I was, in some of these places like Etchkin and Shindan, and you can't get air into places because now they're susceptible to RPG attacks or ground attacks by air. So they have to bring it in by ground.
Do you think it was money too? Do you think the companies didn't want to pay for air in some cases?
Oh yeah, air is expensive. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's super expensive.
Yeah, augmenting resources and the use of contractors in general helped save the military a lot of money, where they can concentrate on the task at hand, which was war. actually, and then we could deal with all this other stuff. But unfortunately, that puts us in a defensive posture, where other people don't have that same luxury, so to speak, of air support, return fire, QRF, even our weapons and arming authority. I mean, we had to deal with, you guys had the rules of engagement. We had the rules for the use of force, or the rules for the use of escalation of force. And it was like show, shove, shout, shoot to kill, that kind of thing. I was going, by the time I got to the 4th S, I said, fuck this, man.
You're fucking dead. I remember this is the biggest joke. I remember I forgot about that. I was like, this is a fucking joke. Look at this thing. Because actually that first trip to Kandahar to Gecko was under SOC. I was on their mobile OGA contract, and then it switched over. Blackwater got it, and then it went direct. But I still remember getting that first one because we fell under the civilian escalation of force, and it was, and honestly, we shredded it. It's like, fuck this. If I get in trouble, I get in trouble. If they shoot at it, but it was essentially they got to shoot at us before we can do anything, or they got to blow us up before we can do anything, and that carried on through the next 5-6 years.
I had one of my gunners shoot a pen flare, and somebody thought that they fired an RPG back. I was just going, okay, this is not working.
Hey, did you find as time went on, and we did a little bit until I moved to the direct side, did you find that the caliber of guys got better or worse as the years went on, or did it remain the same?
I'd let Ed answer that. He knows a lot better than I do, because he's more, he has that trainer mindset.
You were training Ed.
Yeah, I was one of those guys that I was the weak link on the team.
You're the fucking medic. You are not the weak link, dude. You are
when it came to medicine, but when it came to, I'm like a pitcher on a baseball team. I can win a game, but I can't hit for shit. That kind of.
You're special. I got
and you. So, and Ed kind of brought it to light. He told me, look, man, I trained you on how to do this stuff. You know how to do that stuff. You can read a map. You can work comms. If you're so worried about doing your job right, why don't you train all these other guys on how to do your job? And if something happens to you, they can take care of you.
Of course.
And so when I did that, I felt a lot better, because now I knew that I was training them the right way. Ed's training him on all the weapons, and Dave's training him on tactical driving, and we had a really good, solid team. And then you work together until corporate dictates certain things like drivers or fuel, or when you run and how you run, and things like of that nature. So eventually vetting kind of gets set to the wayside, because now you're replacing expats with local nationals. And then the other thing is, we had to deal with an Afghan counterpart for SOC. In order to function in that country, you have to have, like there was a SOC Afghanistan. And so you have to have Afghanistans on the payroll. That one, it's twofold. It stimulates money into their economy, but it also allows you to expedite your documentation, your paperwork, your arming authority, your operations license.
Well, they're expediters. They're like expedite. We call them expediters.
That's the friendlier term for extortion. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what it was. It was exactly what it was. And we found later that one of their expediters, he'd get information and we'd pay him, and then he'd go to the Iranians, and he was expediting for the Iranians, and he was getting paid by both sides, and he was telling them all the runs we were doing, and it was fucking. That was what pissed me off the most. I felt more unsafe.
Yeah, Ed used the fighting season as a way to thin out the herd. So and that's how he did evaluations. There were guys that they didn't last a week when they showed up, or there were guys that just did some of the stupidest things that we didn't tolerate. And so if they didn't find their way to the door, then we found ways to help them out. So, but Ed could probably answer that a lot better.
Yeah, Ed, expound on that, buddy.
And I think at first, at the corporate level, they were all worried about the whole HR aspect. But once they started dealing with the DBA and realized, hey, people are dying out here, usually it was just a couple of phone calls, a couple of conversations, and, folks would get moved from the mobile program into a static site where they could do a lot less damage. As for quality control, I think once again, I mean, sometimes you get a whole bunch of new guys in. I think that happened one time, and then, geez, like within a month or so, most of them were gone.
And is that where they're on the job training, or is that where you're putting
Yeah,
them through training at the Crucible in Northern
No,
Virginia?
this was at SOC.
Okay.
In Afghanistan in 2010, and yeah,
Okay.
some guys just didn't last long. They didn't have the right mindset, yeah, and they just had to get out. Or we just had to find other jobs for them. I think a lot of it too had to depend on the program that you were on and how it was written. Like, I know Whips there for a while. Didn't matter who had the contract, Dine, Blackwater, SOC, because you have to have so much boots on deck.
Yeah.
You would just say, all right, he didn't die during the course. He still has a heartbeat. Get him over there. And so, I mean, and I'm sure we've all seen some of those examples.
Yeah.
You're just like, man, what the hell are you doing over here?
Hey, Ed, before, because I have a few more questions I want to ask. I just want to ask, is your wife in the same room or something? Because she's getting picked up like heavily by the mic. If you,
yeah, hold on, babe.
cool. If you could just take care of that, because it is.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
It
my
is a
wife
little
would be
just
kicking my
distracting for
ass.
the people,
If I did that to my wife, she would kick my ass. That was shit. We got to that's got to be the trailer for the show right there. That's fucking the trailer for the fucking show right there.
But
awesome.
no, because to follow up though on something that I wanted to ask you, and I know that Chris has talked about before on the podcast, for example, is, you know, at the age basically right before you were 50, Chris, you were like, I got to get out of the contracting world. I want to be home with my family. I have other things I want to work on, this public speaking thing. And for you guys, I mean, from what you were saying, you guys have been contracting up until 5 years ago. I don't know if it lasted beyond that. Is there a certain point where you're like, I got to tap out of this? Because for, you know, you guys are older guys in the contracting world and probably serving alongside guys in their 20s, right?
Once I think eventually everybody, I mean, if you're outside the wire, operating outside the wire enough, I think eventually everybody hits that wall.
Sure.
I know I did. It was in May 2011 at that Morgan Kabul. I got another buddy. He was working a contract in Afghanistan, and he was on his way back, sitting in Dubai, and he's like, I can't go back. And he called his wife and she said, all right, get on a plane, come home right now. I mean, it's different for everybody, but I think everybody eventually hits a wall. What we call the wall. And you know, it's time to get out. It's time to go. You gotta get out.
Well, yeah, I do. I just like to say, because to me, when I say hit a wall, that to me is like more of a negative context. I just like to say it's closing that chapter. I'm done. 2017 was my last time as contract, and it's like, because there comes a time, and I've done it. What else I got to prove? And a lot of the stuff we do, and it is a little bit of narcissism. And if the guys that says it's not, you're lying your fucking asses off. We're trying to prove something to ourselves as well as be a team player. So is it a whole thought? Yeah. It comes to like, all right, can I sit on my rocking chair when I'm 80 and be like, fuck, I've lived a good life. And when I thought that way, it was like, you know what? God, I've done enough. What am I haven't done? Well, I haven't been home. I got small kids, so I haven't been home a lot for my kids, or I've been a bad husband, not a bad husband. I just haven't been a present husband for 18 years. That when it came to like, you know what? I need to start doing that now. I've done all that. I don't need to do that anymore. I know how to respond when I get blown up. I know what to do if I get shot at. Good. I've done it. Let's go do this. And I think there's guys that can't let that go, and they go down that spiral where they eventually.
Yeah,
I do. But
for people just listening on audio, you could say we're talking. You know,
they commit suicide, guys. They do.
Yeah.
They commit suicide, and I've lost 32 buddies who have done that. 32, not died in combat, just took their lives. And I would like you guys to talk about that a little bit, Doc, especially, I know, being in the medical world, but also Ed, your mindset on when do you stop? And if you can't stop, there's guys that can't. We've got buddies that have been on the show that are still doing it, and that's what they want to do. I don't know. I want your guys' opinion, because you don't have to agree with me. You could be like, Tony, you're all fucked up. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah, we've lost a couple of guys to suicide.
Sure.
We've got a chapter in there, farewell docs. The interesting thing is that the guys that are gone are docs. you know, so that hits a little bit closer to home, thinking, well, are we the weaker element, or, you know, is it because of all the stuff that we've seen throughout our lives? But I never really played that card. You know, as a matter of fact, I work for Community Fire Rescue now. I'm an engineer, operator, firefighter, paramedic. And the area in Mission Bend and Alief where I work, 75% of the guys that I save are criminals. You know, I'm in the knife and gun club all over again. I'm just on stateside doing the same kind of stuff. But what got me out of the business was when somebody said, "Hey man, you ought to write a book about it." And I said, "Okay, well, there you go. That tells you it's time to set other things aside and put pen to paper." And that was the therapy for both Ed and myself. Was once we started writing it down, it actually kind of helped. You know, it brought stuff to the surface, but we were actually able to reconnect with a lot of guys because we had to conduct these interviews. We created a group where we could stay in contact with we got like 75 hardcore guys that we talk to on a regular basis. We have our own little Facebook group that they're all excited about the book, of course, and whatnot. But as far as PTSD is concerned, it's tough because we can offer our help, but the feedback that we expect to get from guys is, yeah, man, I'm dealing with some tough times or whatever. You don't always get those cues. You don't always know exactly what's going on. And then all of a sudden you get this bad news and you're saying, I just talked to this guy a couple of weeks ago. I don't understand. You know, what happened? What did I miss? And then now you start feeling bad about yourself because you didn't do enough to reach out or whatnot. So it's difficult. It's really hard. I really don't know how to answer that, Chris, to tell you the truth.
Well, I mean, actually, you did. You really answered it without even knowing that you're answering it. You just said, "Hey, I found a way." You found a way. You found a way to close that chapter, and you're still doing something that you enjoy. The thing is, though, as I said, you get to come home and at night when I'm done, and that means you have closed a chapter. I've just moved to another chapter of your life, and you're still doing that. And to me,
I'm not going to mention this guy's name, but I got a guy right now who ran on one of the R1 contracts at SOC in Afghanistan, and I can tell there's something wrong. You know, his speech is garbled. His chats or texts are fragmented. It's almost like he's intoxicated when he's writing to me. And of course, when I say, "Hey man, is anything going wrong?" I get this big denial. So now I'm thinking, well, what can I do to press the issue further? How can I find out if this guy really needs my help, or is he asking for my help, or maybe he just likes to drink all the time? I don't know. You know, you know, that's where I'm at right now. I don't know how to deal with it.
Well, Doc, on those sort of things, you're doing what you're doing. You got to be. One thing when I was going through that, I hated when people kept asking me, even though I wanted some help. I didn't like, "Hey, are you okay? Are you okay?" Because I felt weak. But if I had somebody there that I could just, even if it was fragmented, okay, he's listening to me, just getting a response. Okay. And eventually when it came down to it, it was up to me. I had to get myself out of it. Nobody else was going to get me out of it. I had to look in the mirror and unfuck myself, literally and figuratively. Yeah. But you being there, Doc, and just being, and this is just my opinion, because I do understand that in a bit, because I was at that point in my life right around 2017, 2018. I didn't want somebody asking me if I was okay, because I felt I was weak, but I did want somebody to listen. If I said, "Hey man, are you there?" So I had to let him instigate. And then I've lost a couple of buddies where I did just that. I stepped back and let them, I didn't respond. I didn't reach out and say, "You're okay," because I didn't feel like they needed it. And then, you know, they did lose their lives. They did take their own lives. I don't think it's a win-win situation, and you shouldn't burn yourself with it. You're doing the right thing. But when it comes down to it, and I'm telling you from a guy that's tried to take his life 3 times, I'm the only one that could get myself out of it. Reading the Bible, hitting my buddy up every once in a while, or buddies up every once in a while, but eventually looking in the mirror and going, "I need to fix myself, man."
Right.
You guys have gone through so much shit. That's what kills me, is that we go through so much hell and we can get through it. But then when the thing we shouldn't quit on is ourselves and our family, and then we quit on ourselves and our family. That just makes no sense to me.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But you don't ever look at the negative side of, your pain is gone, but look at all the pain that you're causing everybody else.
Exactly.
And so you got to take one for the team and then step up to the plate.
You're doing what you, Doc. You're doing what you should be doing. I want you to tell you, just being there and being an air. You're doing what you should be doing. I don't ever feel like you're not, because I believe you are.
That's cool. So I want to say something to Ian. We talk about the book. We talk about all the stories that are associated with the book, and we feel comfortable talking to guys like-minded individuals because they understand what it was like. I think the biggest bridge for us to cross is try to get this story out to the general public. We need to bridge that gap and let the general public know these kinds of stories, that they would understand exactly what it was like for us as contractors, where we don't want it to be just a book to security contractors or a book to military oriented personnel. We're trying to figure out a way to get it out to the entire world, so to speak. I mean, this is, after all, it's the United States Postal Service, and we were delivering the mail. As mundane as that might sound, it's a story that resounds with the general public. It's just trying to bridge that gap is our biggest issue right now.
I agree. I mean, I think it's just how it's going to get out there in a distribution type of thing, because when you think about it, I mean, so many of these books, whether they're fiction or nonfiction, have been huge. I mean, we've talked about, whether you want to talk about embellishment and all that, but like American Sniper by Chris Kyle, one of the biggest books out there. Everybody knows that book, or Nick Irving's American Sniper, or Nick Irving was The Reaper, or Chris's, your first book, 13 Hours, I think resonated with the general public. And then all those Brad Thor books, we've had Brad Thor on, resonate with the general public. So I think it's just, you definitely wrote something that the general public is going to want to read. The question is just if they're going to be able to find out about it. I know, like when David Goggins was on Joe Rogan, he was talking about how he got turned down from all these publishers, and they said, we don't know if there's really a market for like a Black Navy SEAL, if people really care, if there's enough like Black people who want to read about a Navy SEAL. And David Goggins was like, I'm not writing this book for Black people specifically, or this type of demographic. He's like, most of my fans are white guys, and most of his fans now are people who listen to Joe Rogan and they've heard him on there. And like, that book has done tremendous, because I think people love the never quit attitude and the resilience. And I think your book's going to have the same thing. So I think it's more of a marketing issue, and just doing podcasts like these, hopefully, because our audience is definitely not just military. There are a lot of guys like me who are civilians. And actually, in the intro segment before we had you on, we were talking about how we got a ton of publicity for this rock interview we did that has nothing at all to do with the military. And a lot of those guys end up checking us out and hearing about these stories. So I think there is a big, and Chris, you see it. I mean, I think when you do book signings and you do events, I think it's right. It's like a 50-50 civilian and military demographic.
What, guys, my advice is, and this is what I found out when I started speaking, starting very small, and I didn't even know public speaking was a thing till a few years back. But I remember I didn't get picked up for a speaking event because the group couldn't relate to the story. They love the story. They love the heroism. They love everything, like I said, you guys went through, but they can't relate to it. So because of movies like American Sniper, even 13 Hours or Lone Survivor, they see us, and I'm saying this in a very humbly, I'm trying to be humble about it. They see us as being larger than life because the movies portray us that way, where we aren't. We go through the same fucking fuck ups in life. We grow up the same. We're human just like everybody else. And I realized that, and that's when I started to change the way I spoke. So I will talk about growing up, how I grew up like everybody else. The only difference I had in me was I just didn't give up. That was it. I fucked up like everybody else. I failed like everybody else. So what I'm saying is, I think your book's going to resonate very, very well with the veteran community, with those that love military. But to cross over into the side that isn't that, being relatable, that you're a human being, that I have fears, right, I have sadness, I have gone through a lot in my life where I've screwed up. The only thing is I just continue to pick myself back up. And that's where the crossover comes. And I've been able, and the reason I'm saying it's because I've been able to do that. It was, and the civilians were telling the people that haven't civilians that we're not anything special. There's no gene that came in me that made me brave or anything. It was who I was around, my father, my mother, my grandfather, that sort of thing. And then guys that I was around are men and women both. And that relatability is where you cross over. Then we're all just civilians. Everybody's civilian. I just chose a different route. And then when shit hit the fan,
from an editing standpoint, we took out a number of acronyms and abbreviations and
that helps.
152 cuss words.
that
like,
does,
oh my God.
Yeah, sometimes I think you do have to explain that stuff without talking down to the audience.
Yeah.
And I think from when I came into this world, I there was definitely a learning curve there. And I needed to be around guys like Chris who could explain this type of thing. And I think that's probably one of the values I bring to the podcast is I am a civilian. So if things get too technical, I can step in here and go, what are you guys talking about? I mean, when I first started, I didn't know that Special Operations Forces was the umbrella term for Navy SEALs, for MARSOC, for Army Rangers. And I didn't know that Special Forces was a branch of the Army separate from Special Operations as a whole. And I think the average civilian picking up a book like yours, they may not know that. So I think explaining that type of thing, but without talking down to the audience.
Being humble, just being extremely humble like you guys are, and the relatability comes in, and just being thankful. I am thankful for everything that I've been able to have at this point in time. I think always being thankful, getting that bravado. You got that in you. You don't need to show it to anybody anymore.
Yeah.
Now it's the humility. Now it's like, God, thank you so much. It was and I honestly believe that. People thank me. I said, don't thank me. It was my honor. And I know you guys feel the same way. We signed. It was my honor to serve this country. That is the relatability. And then talking about your failures and opening up, I'm not saying I've ever cried on stage when I've spoken before. Yeah, I have quite often, but that makes it relatable. We're human. We have feelings.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good point, because the fact that a lot of times mistakes that are made are the endpoints of some of your successes.
Yeah.
We learn from them, and and we have to mention them, because we wouldn't have been in the situation if we hadn't made this mistake in the first place. So that's how you tell the story. So
definitely.
I think
failing it. Go ahead, Doc. Go ahead, Doc.
The hard part for me was talking to Ed, because it's his story. I'm telling his story, that when I'm writing it, it's putting myself in his shoes type of a deal. And how do I know how a guy that I look up to, he was my mentor, he trained me. How do I know what he's going through without him actually telling me, hey man, this was bad stuff, and I think that we've got that kind of relationship where, it's like a two-way range. We're just kind of pinging off each other, getting a lot of feedback and whatnot. But in order to tell the story so that it flows properly, that it covers that theme aspect and all the things that make a good book is what we're trying to accomplish. So
Ed, go ahead. I'm sorry, Ed, go ahead.
No. What were you saying?
I didn't know. If Ed wanted to follow up with anything.
No, I mean, like Al said, I mean, it's just, as for the whole PTSD, I found that keeping busy when I came home. I first started working at Lowe's, believe it or not. But
that's awesome.
Then I got into fitness training, and I was a fitness trainer down at a kickboxing gym here in Bend at 9 Round, and just keep on find that sense of purpose. Also, I like doing the fitness training because I like to help people. On the gym floor, you see somebody their first time coming in, you got to teach them everything. Then 6 months later, boom, they're showing up as to help out run the floor and stuff, because that they're doing all the moves right. They got all the techniques down. It's finding that sense of purpose. Like I do volunteer work down at the Veterans Ranch here in Central Oregon. It's a working ranch, and
that's a good group. I know those guys. They're good. I mean, I know of the Veterans Ranch. They're great. Do great things.
Yeah, Central. It's run by Allison Perry. I don't know if you've met her or not.
I've met him. I know on the social media side of the house. They from what I've seen, they do tremendous stuff down there. Great
it keeps it pretty much, it gives veterans a sense of purpose. So they've helped out quite a few guys. They were like right there on the edge of going out, and now they're like integral part of the ranch right now, running operations there.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. Yeah, that's
so you live in Oregon now, because the accent, I was gonna say, it was like you have to be a masshole.
My cousin from Boston.
Yeah, I'm from Boston. Yeah.
So did you guys write this book, virtually together through the whole pandemic timeline? Because you're in Texas, Alan, you're in Oregon. How did it get done?
Well,
no, way before that.
2017. We started in 2017. That's 27. Like Al mentioned earlier, we had the thing with our buddy trying to collect stories for a movie pilot. I was like, by 2017, I was like, this is it. This is the year. New Year's resolution. We're gonna get a book written. Then that's when I brought in Al. I was like, dude, let's do this. And because I know, once again, he was already published in magazines for tactical medicine. So we worked together, and
it was just back and forth.
Yeah, back and forth. And then
so write a chapter, send it to him. He'd send it back, fix it up. Yeah, just.
And then finally, yeah.
Well, I think again, with this, it just be humble, be what we are, and what everybody that has gone through something that's traumatic or multiple traumatic events. There's no need to be Robert Conrad with the battery on your shoulder anymore. Say, knock it.
Yeah.
I'm always more intimidated by somebody that has gone through shit that is extremely humble and happy and thankful. It's like, because I know he probably whooped my ass than somebody that's out there being what we think that we need to be, and that's somebody that's arrogant as fuck, and there's no reason for that. You guys have done it. You guys have done everything, and even more. I mean, and I think people should hear your story. They need to hear your story. At Marine Ed, they need to hear your stories, and Doc, same with you. And set the example of how to get through adversity every day. You don't cry when the shit's going on the battlefield. You fucking do the job. But now we're back home, and it's okay to show emotion now. We all have to. I do. I still do. There's nothing wrong with that. And when you see that, then people that haven't gone through it relates, though, because now they can relate to maybe a traumatic event in their life. It doesn't have to be war. It can be a car crash. It can be, the death of a family member. It can be, it can be as traumatic as blowing out your knee doing rappelling, and now you got to go through. I bet that's where it becomes relatable now. It's like, you know what? I can relate to that. I haven't been through it, but I understand the feelings. How did he get through it? I can do that. And that's how it gets crossed over, and it's no longer fucking bad. I'm some badass out there in the combat zone. I was a dude on
but some of those books like that were huge. So I don't know. I think civilians do like to read just military stories. I really do. I think there's a huge market for it. And one thing this book is going to show, when you say 2017, there's so many people who want to write a book, who listen to the show. And I think when it shows, 5-year process of it's finally out there. It shows this does not happen overnight. It's a long time of writing the book and then editing it the way that you want it and getting the perfect thing out there that is going to appeal to a broad audience. So once again, for the audience, it's out today. I'm going to have to talk to you guys because we'll figure out the link I could post in here so that people could order it. As you said, I think it should be on Amazon by the time people hear this on Monday. Postcardsthroughhell.com to learn more. Postcardsthroughhell.com. And then do you guys have any separate social media or anything like that, or is postcardsthroughhell.com really the best way to find you?
No, Amazon and Barnes and Noble will carry it online. We have a Kindle version, and I guess the publisher goes to a wholesale distributor that has links to other online bookstores that I'm not aware of who they are.
But you guys aren't on Instagram or Facebook or any of that?
We should have LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram accounts. They're not as heavy as Facebook, but I know we're trying to manage between the two of them back and forth. So Ed does a lot better job,
So Ed, what are the best places for people to find you on social media?
I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram.
But what is it? Postcards Through Hell?
Oh no, it'll be under my name. Ed
You know, there's
Ford.
going to be a million Edward Fords. That's a little bit tough.
Oh yeah, I didn't think of that.
So I was wondering if you had like at Postcards Through Hell or something like
geez,
that.
Well, that's
No,
something
It's
we
cool.
can do.
People could just go to the website then. That's probably the best way is
yeah.
postcardsthroughhell.com.
Yeah, and we're carrying their links on the website as well. So it's definitely doable.
Yeah. By the way, Chris missed that because I was saying,
Sorry,
no, but we were talking Facebook, and he's like, yeah, it's just Ed Ford, and I'm like, Ed, you know, there's gonna be a million Ed Fords on Facebook. Like, I'm like, do you have a specific link?
what are you
here?
talking about? That is not a common name, Ed or Ford. Never. Dude, you guys, I knew this is going to be good in the book. The stuff we used to call them milk runs. Milk runs are the most dangerous out there because they're time and place predictable. They're always, especially if you're running, you like you never get everything you need. So you're getting the worst vehicles in the worst shape. You know, you're fucking tired because you're running all the time, same time, never any sleep and especially Afghanistan. And like I said, during the wintertime, I'm glad you pointed that out. Yeah, it's bad during the fucking springtime, but in the wintertime, it's not the bullets you have to worry about. It's the damn road conditions. Yeah. And even in Kabul, the open sewers, when they get covered up with snow, you can't see that shit. And literally, I remember almost bottom it. And when you're in that heavy of a vehicle, bottom them out in a sewer I didn't see, driving back to some alleyway. And now you're stuck, and here you are again. Now you're fucking fixed position. And anyway, guys, you guys are awesome. I depended on you. I know a lot of my GRS brothers depended on you. You sacrificed, you guys, and the guys that did pass, you know, God bless them. They sacrificed their lives to keep the morale of us up, which helped us do our job. And that meant a lot to guys like myself, especially when you're not home at Christmas and Thanksgiving, and neither were you guys at certain times. So it did not go unnoticed. And I'm glad that we got this. I didn't know I didn't know anybody. So I'm glad you guys, did we find them or did they find us? Whatever happened.
No, you guys reached out to us actually a long time ago. It was probably 6 to 8 months ago. And I said, let's do it closer to when the book comes out, because I want people to hear the interview and then buy the book. I didn't want, you know, because the attention span of the public, it's just short. That's the way it is. There's a million books out there. There's a million podcasts out there. So it makes more sense to do it now that people could hear this interview and go, man, I need to hear these stories. I'm going to go out and buy the book.
And you guys are awesome. Bottom line is you guys are fucking amazing, and you did great. And it was a good episode for me to reminisce. In the Crucible, we did a lot of our training up there in Northern Virginia with the agency. We'd come in and sneak. And I remember what DynCorp was a big deal back in the day. And I think right around that time frame, 2011, they started to find that it was not economically feasible to do security anymore. And they were making tons of money everywhere else. So that's when they cut it. I remember those days too, because they were running. This is what bothers me a little bit. And then we'll get off of this. You guys can do, I'm sorry, I'm keeping you. The birds that we were using on the OGA side of the house, they were all owned by DynCorp. So it made no sense to me that they could supply you with birds, because that's who was our pilots, and our birds, all our hips were DynCorp flown and DynCorp owned. And then we supplied the gunners, the door gunners, if we wanted to go up, if we weren't doing missions on the ground. So like, those motherfuckers, they said they couldn't have used. All of our helicopters were all fucking DynCorp owned and DynCorp piloted. Those motherfuckers. But so
it comes down to how that contract's written for that scope of work, and are you willing to pay for it?
And that's where it comes down to. It comes down to corporate money, and lives don't mean shit except to the guys on the ground. And lives mean everything to your brothers. And that you guys, you guys are awesome. You guys did amazing shit. I love you, man. Great job.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks a lot, buddy.
Thank you.
No, thanks for coming on. The last things I'm going to mention for the audience before we get out of here, for one, be sure you're subscribed wherever you're listening. Like if you're watching on YouTube, leave us a comment. All of that stuff helps us out greatly. And then Jeremy Mitchell is running a contest for us for subscribers to the YouTube channel. He's taking care of all that. And we're going to have like amazing prize packs, stuff from Fort Scott Munitions, stuff from all over the place. So he's going to basically, anyone who's subscribed, you're entered. There's nothing else you need to do. You just need to hit the subscribe button on YouTube, because Jeremy was saying there's a way for him to see who's subscribed.
We can track it.
Yeah. So I said to Jeremy, you take care of all that. And he's taking care of that whole contest. So make sure you hit the subscribe button. It's as easy as that. And I've been talking about doing a Patreon where we'll have a new show up every other week or so. And we're going to continue to do that. It's probably going to be closer to the new year. We want to shoot a video teasing it all out. We're going to do some cool stuff like that canvas back there, the battle line one behind Chris, behind me. We're going to do like a new canvas every month for listeners who are subscribed to the top tier. And we're going to do like a comic book style one. And we're going to number all of them, sign them. And so we're going to have just awesome stuff available for like the hardcore listeners of this show. That Patreon will be up closer to the new year, so make sure you check it out when we have it up, and just stay subscribed to all of us in every platform. Great to have you guys on. This was a great episode, and I knew it would be. You know, every now and again, either of you guys would email me and be like, hey, I hope you haven't forgotten about this, and of course we didn't. I just wanted to make sure that it happened closer to the release of the book, and I think, like I said, there's so many people in this audience who have read Chris's book, who have read Brad Thor, and then have read stuff like Jocko's book. And when we're talking about failures and all that, I mean, that's what Jocko got famous for, is really his book that he co-authored. It was Leif Babbitt and Jocko, Extreme Ownership, and it was all about their failures. And I think civilians related to that. And I think civilians will be able to relate to your book and take it into their own life and their own perspective. So great to have you on, and we'll talk with you again at some point, and stay in touch.
All right. Thanks, Ian. I appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Chris.
Take care,
See you
Marie.
later, Chris. Take care of that knee,
care.
buddy.
Take care.
Absolutely.
That's all for this episode of the Battle Line Podcast. But we'll be back on Monday with more American Straight Talk. Until then, be sure to follow us on Instagram at Battle Line Podcast and on Twitter at Battle Line Pod. To sign up for future Battle Line tactical courses, go to www.christantoparanto.net. Believe in yourself, face all challenges head on, and as always, never quit.